Oh, I love the handbrake. My BMW needs to learn how to do this. All right, so I've put in, I got this with 17,519 miles. And it's at 17,603 miles, which means I've done 100 minus 16. Before we start driving the car, I just want to show you something, okay? I don't know if you can see this, but the rear tires on this car are very worn out. That's because my cousin likes to drive very spiritedly in little circles. And so that leads us to the first problem with this specific example, and it's that because the tires are so bald, the traction control always kicks in and it cuts power, which is why I have to do this before I drive this car every single time. So now it's time to go for a drive and just talk shit about this car for not being a BMW. In the first video, I already mentioned this. I said that I didn't really like the clutch in this car. The clutch spring just has like a weird feel to it. It feels like spongy, and the feel's just not very consistent throughout the throw, and it was really throwing off my driving. However, after a week of driving this thing around, it's not that big of a deal. I was just clearly out of practice for the first video, and after a week of driving manual again, it's not anything crazy. Like, you just have to get used to it. But I'd still say that I'm not a big fan of the clutch in this car. I also found the 1-2 shift to be really weird and kind of inconsistent, which I didn't like. But after a week of driving, it's not that annoying. You know, you just got to get used to it. Because, okay, before we talk shit about this car, I just want to talk about, like, how to drive this particular car smoothly. Well, actually, never mind. I guess that leads us to the first point. There's a bit of rev hang in this car. So I'm just gonna shift normally, and you guys look at the tach. Well, you're not gonna be able to see, but okay. We're in second gear. Foot off the throttle, into third gear. Ready? Foot off the throttle. Maybe I can't show you for certain right now, but what I did notice is there is just a little bit of rev hang in this car. When I drive my car, as soon as I let off the throttle, the revs just immediately start dropping, right? But in this car, I realized that the revs just take like a split second before starting to drop, especially if you don't have the AC blowing as strongly as it is right now. And what that basically means is you just have to be more patient with your gear changes, right? But then counterintuitively, all of that goes away when you're actually pushing the car, which I'm not sure why. Maybe someone can explain the engineering behind it, but there is a little bit of rev hang, and on top of that, there's a bit of throttle lag. And I think the rev hang might be caused by the throttle lag. I'm not too sure, but when I get on the throttle, it's kind of like playing a video game with a little bit of lag, right? It's just like you click the button and then the gun fires like half a second afterwards. But like once you know that, you can kind of work your way around it, and you can just be a little bit more patient. I think if you're unaware of the input lag, what ends up happening is you just kind of get on the throttle and then the car's not responding, so you get on it more, and then it just kind of, you over rev, or you just get off the throttle and you expect the revs to have dropped a certain amount, but it hasn't dropped yet because like it only just started dropping. Basically, for the 1-2 shift, it just takes a lot of patience and a lot of finessing with the clutch. All right, now moving on. In terms of the steering feel, in the first video, I said that the steering feel is phenomenal in this car. I lied. Toyota did a really good job in translating the road surface to your hands. You feel a lot of vibrations, and you feel exactly what the road surface feels like. And on top of that, the steering is surprisingly stiff. And so with the road surfaces, oh, that was such a good heel toe. Oh my God. Yeah, see, right now, I feel every bump on the road. I feel the road surface, and the steering itself, like the ratio is really short, and it's very stiff. And so what all of that does is it creates a really nice illusion that there's a lot of steering feel However, I think the best way to describe it is it translates to me the surface of the road and it feels nice and tight. But whenever I turn the steering wheel, it literally doesn't give me any information about what the front tires are doing. And all of that information of what the front tires are doing is just felt through the chassis and just through my butt, basically. And so you have a lot of butt feel because of the short wheelbase. But then in terms of like what you actually feel with your hands, you don't get any information about what the front tires are doing. And because of that, when I'm driving this thing on the highway, it just feels like the steering is really, it's just fatiguing. I find the feedback from the road and just like all the vibrations really fatiguing. And so you basically have all the drawbacks of hydraulic steering in terms of feeling all the vibrations with no feel. Yeah, see, even right now, I feel all the bumps and vibrations, but there's no steering feel. And if that's gonna be the case, I'd rather just not feel the vibrations so much. All right, anyways, moving on to other little things about this car. I talked about the seating position being phenomenal, but I've come to find out that actually, it's really hard to find a good seating position in this car. The steering wheel doesn't telescope as far out to you as you want it to. And see, let me show you, right? Steering wheel, that's all the way in, and this is as far as it comes out. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I like having my steering wheel close to my chest, and it just doesn't come out as far as I want it to. And so basically what I have to do is I have to sacrifice leg room to bring the seat closer so that I can be close enough to the steering wheel. But then when I do that, for my height, it's just I literally have no leg room. And this padding is not that nice to rest your leg on. And then if I kind of like slouch forward a little bit, my knee hits that fucking start-stop button. But like, I would rather be closer to the steering wheel than have a ton of leg room and be driving like this. So it's kind of weird. I'm 6 foot tall on a good day, and my wingspan's longer than my height. It's not because I have short arms. I think it's just more like this car was designed for shorter people. Oh my God, bro. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Anyways, next point on the list. The cabin is really fucking loud. Like, I had wind noise reduction on my mic for some reason on the last video, and so the cabin noise really fucked up my audio quality because it was trying to cut all the background noise out, right? And it was basically cutting out my voice too because the car is that fucking loud. In terms of on-road refinement, you get a lot of tire noise, you get a lot of road noise, you get a lot of wind noise, and on top of that, you feel the entire road surface through your butt, through the floor of the car. You get a lot of vibrations through your hand and from the steering wheel. And what I noticed is just like all of that adds up to, if you put it nicely, all of that adds up to be a very raw analog experience, right? But having recently driven my friend's E30 and also dailying a 2005 BMW for a car that's more expensive than an E46 330i, it should be a little bit more refined, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe people want this, but I just feel like the lack of refinement in this car doesn't necessarily add to the experience. I think if anything, it just makes this experience feel cheaper than it should feel like. Like, these cars used are still going for $30,000, and that gets you a really not so refined daily. You're gonna be shouting to your passengers. The speakers are complete dog shit. No bass. Yeah. I get that, like, these are all things that you should expect when you're buying a really entry-level sports car, right? And you're not really paying for refinement, you're paying for the sports car. However, then I feel like a sports car should be rewarding to drive at all levels. But what I found is that, like, because of the rev hang and the weird ass clutch feel and the lack of steering feel, this car's not rewarding to drive at low speeds. I think this is still a phenomenal car. Like, don't get me wrong, okay? I'm just pointing all of this out because this video is about everything wrong with the Toyota gr86, right? But it's just at lower speeds with cars in front of you, maybe cars to both sides of you, and you're just trying to drive civilized. It's not a rewarding experience. And it's only when you start pushing this car and revving it out to 6,000, 7,000 RPM and trying to shift as quickly as possible that you can actually enjoy this car for what it is, right? Like if you're trying to compare it with my BMW, I wanted to make a separate video on this, but maybe I won't. My E46 is way more rewarding to drive at 4/10. Like, it's just nice revving the engine out to 4,000 or 5,000 RPM because the engine has so much character. It's smooth, and it's just really satisfying to drive smoothly. But this car is not that satisfying to drive smoothly. It's just really satisfying to push. You know, I really like this car, but at the same time, like, it doesn't make sense to me that a 20-year-old BMW would be more refined inside than a modern Toyota sports car. When my cousin was getting this car, these cars were still really hard to find, right? And so he had to overpay a little bit for it. And even used right now, with fucking 17,000 miles, these things go for like $30,000. And so these aren't cheap cars. Let's say you want to get this car and then you want to put it on coilovers and get an exhaust and do like some modifications, right? That thing's gonna be $35,000, $40,000. For that money, you could even get some old M3s and have money to fix that thing up. You know what I mean? And if you're looking for the true like analog sports car experience that this car is supposed to offer, I feel like those cars do a better job at offering the real thing, right? For example, my E46, it's not a sports car, right? It's not a sports car. This is a sports car. My E46 is not a sports car. So keep that in mind before I say all this ignorant shit. But my E46 is way more refined inside. It sounds better. I have better speakers. I have more rear luggage space, and it's just more practical. And if you can just find an E46 that's been taken care of very nicely, and you stick a differential in that thing in a short shifter, I feel like it would be a serious competitor to this car. It's really fun to drive at 9/10, 8/10, but I think around like 6.5/10 and below, this thing really starts to fall apart. I'm sure this thing would be really fun on the track. It would be really fun on the canyons, but I don't go to the canyons all the time. I don't go to the track all the time. If I'm just talking about me personally, I want a car that I can enjoy on the street, right? Like, if you guys are looking for fucking unbiased reviews and like you're thinking I'm some journalist, I'm not, bro. I'm just talking about what I like in my cars personally. Take my content as entertainment, not actual fucking car reviews, please. But as I was saying, I just feel like this car is a little bit overrated in the fact that it's just really cool that a car company can still make something like this. Who knows, bro? Maybe if this car had new tires and I think either his transmission mount or his engine mounts are a little bad or something. Like, the car is not very tight. It could just be this car, but it's not as tight as you would expect a new Toyota sports car to be. Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's because he did a little too many donuts. And I've never driven a car with rev hang before, so like, this is all new to me, but the car has rev hang. See? It's definitely fast enough. I like it. I think the big takeaway from this week I've had in this car is that these car journalists are driving these cars at 9/10, 10/10, right? They're driving these things on the track, and they spend a little bit of time driving spiritedly on canyons for the reviews. You know what I mean? They don't really live with this thing. Don't get me wrong. Once again, I really like this car. I think this is a great car. Honestly, genuinely. I'm just good at talking shit. I also noticed some weird squeaking noises in the cabin. Just, I'm not sure exactly where it's from, but I don't know if you can hear that, but it's so loud in here, bro. It's so loud. Yeah, like, I think the road noise wouldn't be an issue if the car sounded really good and the mechanics complemented that in terms of not having rev hang, not having throttle lag, and having actually good steering feel. But because it doesn't sound good and it doesn't feel raw, like authentically raw, right? Dude, the steering wheel kind of squeaks a little bit. Dude, what? Maybe something's not right with this car. Wait, why does it... Yo, what is that sound? That's what I mean by this car just doesn't feel... It feels cheap. Why does it sound like that? It's not from here. It's not from the steering. Okay, good. What is that sound? But that's what I mean, right? This thing has 17,000 miles. And I think the best way to describe this car is it's a really fun toy. This thing feels fun. But if I was being honest, some of that fun feeling comes from immaturity. And not all immaturity is a good thing. Wow, I'm so poetic right now, dude. That's crazy.